I wear a lot of different hats. I'm responsible for everything from making sure that the AC is working here, which is kind of a struggle sometimes when there's nobody here. Every once in a while I have to come by and pop in and check, make sure nothing's broken, make sure everything's still working. IPS stands for Intentional Peer Support. It's the model that we operate under here at GPR. It is really, in the most basic sense, it's a system for deep kind of substantive connection between people. We use it as a tool for kind of promoting healing and wellness, but really it's not strictly limited to kind of healthcare. Really, from having taken it and becoming IPS certified, like I can really say that even just in my personal life, it's really improved the quality of how I communicate with people and the quality of my connections with the people in my life. That's kind of where the healing happens, in that connection, that mutual connection with somebody, the relationship, not just simply that one-sided, tell me about your problems, tell me what's wrong, let's talk about you. Yeah, so it's been a long, strange road. I don't know about long. I better knock on wood, I'm only 29. I've got a long way to go still, I guess. I was actually diagnosed with depression and ADHD and I think anxiety when I was 7 years old. And the situation surrounding that was pretty, really traumatic would be the word for it. I was bullied a lot when I was growing up, when I was in elementary school. All the systems that are kind of there to prevent that and to protect kids from that kind of failed, kind of let me down. I actually got in a bit of trouble because of it. It had gotten to the point where really none of the adults really weren't doing anything to kind of address what was happening. And I brought a knife to school to defend myself. It was kind of one of those situations where it was a little tiny Swiss Army knife. They kind of cornered me, started picking on me. I pulled it out. I said, hey, don't mess with me. And of course, police got called. As soon as they called, I surrendered the weapon right away. I wasn't there to hurt anybody. It was really kind of doing the best problem solving I could do for a kid who was depressed and anxious and suffering from ADHD and getting bullied all the time. That really kind of I think set the tone for a lot of my youth and adolescence. I kind of lived in the shadow of that mistake and of those events for a long time. We've structured our society in a way that is like really unhealthy. When you think about it, one individual struggling with mental or emotional distress or mental illness is almost more like one sick cell in an organism. More than anything, I think we are, at least in kind of the Western world, we really neglect the importance of social connectedness in our lives. We've kind of structured our worlds in a way that we have this system of values where we think that like the strongest, the most independent, we're so hyper individualistic that we have this almost fantasy of like the self-made man, the person who like doesn't need anyone, is totally self-sufficient, can kind of thrive in a vacuum and totally take care of themselves. And we have very real, very important kind of like socio-emotional needs that are getting neglected. So I think the one thing that people can do is to talk to one another and to kind of really tend to the relationships that you have in your life, diversify your support network and help the people around you diversify their support network. Because in a really ideal world, we wouldn't need therapists and hospitals and professionals to talk to. We would talk to each other and listen to each other. In our culture here in the US, there's a whole lot of shame associated with the idea of needing somebody. And it's such a simple, such a basic, such a human thing to need other people. I think maybe the way to describe it is I'm kind of excited for them, especially if it's somebody who's coming in for the first time, and if I get the sense that that we could be a really good fit for them, that we could really kind of add a lot, and I'm excited to see people come in for the first time and take that first step on this wellness journey. I'm very much an extrovert, so for me, I like that connection with people, connecting people, meeting people. There's just something kind of exciting and invigorating about getting to know someone, even if it's in somewhat unfortunate circumstances. It's kind of, I get a little bit revitalized by that connection. We see a pretty wide range of people of, I mean, really all sorts of ethnicities, all sorts of socioeconomic backgrounds, all sorts of ages. One thing worth mentioning about us is since we are non-clinical, like we don't diagnose, we don't treat, we don't prescribe, so there is no exclusionary criteria in terms of what somebody is experiencing, as long as it is pre-crisis. So like we are a pre-crisis kind of intervention. We do hear back from people quite often, and it's really one of the most like fulfilling, rewarding parts of this job. We did get one letter from somebody who was overnighting with us for a while. They moved out of state and they got established somewhere else, and it was this really profound kind of thank you letter about like all the ways in which we had facilitated the, in their opinion, facilitated a lot of the growth that allowed them to be successful on this move that they didn't know how they were going to pull it off, but then they did it. They wrote us back afterwards, and it's just really amazing tale. It's hard to describe how meaningful the work is, and how there's something really unique about being able to come into a place about, say, 20 minutes before your shift. You're at home and you're looking at the clock and you're like, oh man, like I do not feel like I feel like I don't feel good today. I'm not in a good place. I'm super anxious, or I'm feeling really depressed, and you're having all those thoughts as you're looking at the clock, waiting for it to be time to clock in to go to work. That in other places that I've worked, it's like dread. It's like terrible to be in that mindset when you're going into work. But here, I can't tell you how many times I've kind of started a day like that off, or a shift, questioning, do I need to call out? I'm really not feeling myself. I don't know if I can be there for other people. And the beautiful thing about the way that we provide our services is that the community, the wellness community that we've kind of created here, allows for us to have our own cups filled, so to speak. When we come in kind of feeling like that, there are a lot of times when, personally, when I've come in feeling like, I really don't know if I can do this today. I really don't know if I can put on a brave face and support other people. I don't feel like I can even carry my own weight right now. And I come in and I sit down, and some of the guests who are here can tell. They can see that I'm not good at pretending to not be upset when I'm upset, and they see it. And as soon as I come in, before I even set my stuff down, they're just like, "What's going on, man? You don't seem like yourself." And I sit and we do IPS together, and I leave feeling renewed, restored. And that is, I think, the thing that I value most about this is it's not kind of just a place where we as staff give and give and give and give and like don't get anything back. This place is as much a part of our support and our self-care as it is for the people that come as guests. We're kind of all here together creating this space. There was one time where my girlfriend was going through a lot back home, and I was getting ready to kind of clock out and leave here, and I was kind of messaging with her, realizing that I was going to leave this place where I had just got done doing, supporting people emotionally for like 7 hours straight, and I was going to pack up my stuff and go home and then support my girlfriend. And I was like, man, like this is a really long day. Like, this is a lot of. I was kind of having one of those moments where I was just like, man, like I don't know if I have the strength to do this. And right as I was kind of getting ready to leave, one of the guests was in the kitchen, and she saw me, and she was like, "What's wrong? You seem." Obviously something's wrong. And I ended up actually staying, I think, probably 20 or 30 minutes after my shift had ended, because I was just having such a rich connection with this person. And there's a really beautiful thing about it when people who come here seeking like support and seeking services realize that they have a way that they can give back, that it's not like that one-sided. There's something really, really empowering and I think important about being able to provide that for us as staff as well. It kind of removes some of that that veneer that exists in the clinical world of just like, this is for professionals. You need a license in order to be able to help people. It's like, no, all you need is like patience to be willing to sit and listen with someone and listen to understand them. And it's just really cool to see people who come in with not a whole lot of kind of faith in themselves, who are really down, who kind of see themselves, don't see a lot of hope for themselves, and to, you know, after a couple weeks or a couple months of being here, they're helping us, they're supporting us as we support them and support the other people. It's a really cool process to watch. Hope I wasn't too rambly or off topic.
No, it's
okay.
fine.
Cool.
So yeah, let's get a shot of you,
Sure.
like sort of standing on the staircase.
Okay. Like going up, or just standing
Yeah, just sort of standing.
here, facing you, facing up.
I'll show you one sec.
Yeah.
This one. So basically, kind of just like come up here
Okay.
and like do this.
Okay.
Like look off to the distance. Yeah.
Look off thoughtfully into the sunset. Should I take this off for the shot?
Not keep it on.
Okay.
Keep it on. Yeah, just in case you say something cool. That's what we always do. I know it feels a little weird.
I'm just laughing about that in case you say something cool.
Alright, cool, awesome. Alright.
Just in case you say something awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so let's figure out. So what's upstairs anyway?
So there's 3 more rooms upstairs that are just kind of for everybody. These 2 are our like wheelchair accessible rooms. So there's just 3 more upstairs, another bathroom, and our staff office where we keep like guest files and things like that.
Cool. So not much upstairs.
Not really. I mean, if you wanted, we could get like a shot of a room.
Yeah, we'll do that.
This is I mean, as good as any. They all more or less look like this. This is the handicap accessible bathroom. We have another one upstairs that like just doesn't have the bottom floor is just kind of like our, you know.
These are all rooms, I assume, right?
Yeah. These 2 are guest rooms. This is kind of, it's probably a little bit of a mess right now. We're in the process of kind of overhauling this. This is, we call it the peer room. This is where people come, like, if there's something that they want to talk about that they're not comfortable talking about a group, or if they've never done a group before, they're just like not where they're at yet. It's not
yeah,
much, not much to show right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not particularly flashy.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's on the to-do list, getting some replacement furniture for in here. We used to just have a single couch that was in here. And we wanted to make it a little bit more open so that if people weren't comfortable like scooting up next to each other to talk, that they had some space if they wanted it.
Okay. That's your table, I assume?
That's ours, yeah. That's the smoking patio where people, if they need a nicotine break.
Gotcha. And these are all your plants, right?
These are the neighbors, I believe. I don't think those are
And
ours.
that's I'm assuming that's their greenhouse as well.
I think it's the garage, but yeah,
The garage.
it belongs to them.
Interesting.
I would be, I mean, happy to talk about a little bit, not in a whole lot of detail, about kind of like our funding situation, because that's, I mean, a big,
Yeah, you can just talk about it right now.
a big ongoing struggle for
Still
us.
recording.
Okay, gotcha. It's been tough because it's mental health is one of those things that, like, everybody's talking about, everybody wants to talk about, everybody wants to kind of be a part of the conversation and talk about how important it is, but there's a really, really, it is really, really hard to get funding for stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, with everything going on with COVID, it's just, it's a bad time to try to run a business, and it's an even harder time to try to run a nonprofit.
Definitely. It's a hard time for everybody.
It's a really hard time for everybody. And the executive director and myself, work very hard on making do with what we've got. She is constantly seeking more funding sources, writing grant after grant after grant after grant.
So who usually donates?
We get some private donations. We get, in terms of financial donations, most of our donors are private.
Okay.
We get some in-kind donations. When we were operational every Friday, we have kind of like a little community event. We have a Pizza Friday. Papa John's donates, a whole bunch of pizzas every week for that. This I can actually remove. This
Yeah, actually, yeah.
This is not part of the landscape typically.
I try to get a few seconds on every shot just so I can
Yeah.
play around with it a bit.
And it's been tough. There's a lot of challenges, not just logistical challenges, to doing something like this purely remote, like via telehealth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of just emotional challenge because like the work that we do is so focused on the magic happens, so to speak, in the connection with people.
Yeah.
And there's just so much that's missing from being able to be here like physically with each other and like share this space. We've seen a lot of the attendance to our groups has just been kind of dwindling since we went remote. Right now our warm line is our most, by far our most robust service. That's the one area that we've actually grown and expanded in quite a lot. We get callers from all over the 50 states and some from outside of it. We get callers from Canada. We've gotten some callers from Puerto Rico. But there's just something missing from the groups that doing it over Zoom, it's just not the same for a lot of people.
Yeah, I remember, oh my gosh, it's a little bit different, but I remember I stopped talking to my therapist because I wasn't getting anything out of online.
The Zoom
really
groups.
She was actually really good, like, pretty empathetic.
Yeah.
So, but in a lot of ways, it just feels detached.
Yeah.
So don't get discouraged, that's what I'm saying. It's
For sure.
never an issue with the program.
Yeah. It's also just been a real big challenge. Like doing this kind of work from home is so challenging in a way that I never saw coming until I was kind of in the middle of it. Like when we came here to like this space and we had, a heavy day where somebody shares something really kind of heavy with us, something that takes a lot of our emotional, we invest a lot of ourselves emotionally in the work that we do.
Yeah.
But then we can we get in our car and we drive 2 or 3 miles and we go home and we leave that here. But when you're remote and you're working from home, you're never not in the place that you work.
Yeah.
So those feelings, those emotions that we take on, and those feelings that we feel when we're supporting people, the stories that people share with us, and the things that we kind of absorb and pick up along the way, are always there.
Man, it is steaming in here, by the way. I know the AC is probably off, right?
It's on. It's just again, that's another thing that is on our to-do list when we get the funding for it.
Yeah.
We're cooled with mini split units for each of the rooms, but there is no unit for this room, and the central AC is probably half a century out of date. I apologize.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. I've been going through a lot recently myself because
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, well, fuck this. I'm not taking this anymore. Like, I'll fucking figure it out my own way. And
Yeah.
then I went through the whole withdrawal process, which was awful.
Yeah, terrible.
Fucking awful. They undersell how bad it is.
I accidentally did that to myself recently.
Oh, really?
It's been a really, really crazy time managing this place. It's kind of felt like my job for the last couple months has been like putting out like fire after fire after fire. There's just been so much stuff that our organization has been challenged with. I mean, all of us from the top to the bottom, there's been just kind of challenge after challenge and roadblock after roadblock. And while my ADHD is paying attention to all of this stuff and making sure all these fires are under control, there's the stuff that is not getting paid attention to, like, do I have enough of my meds? Am I going to run out soon? Am I taking it the way I'm supposed to? Yeah, and I did. I ran out. And I knew I ran out. I was on my to-do list. I would write it down at least once a day. Call North Florida, get more meds. And I would get so busy and wrapped up in what I was doing, the work that I was doing. It would be like 5, 6 p.m. I'd be like, motherfucker, I forgot to call again. And like 7 days went by before I was able to like get seen. And by that point, the stuff that I take, you have to like titrate up really, really slowly and really, really carefully. And I had been basically cold turkey off of it for long enough to where they had to totally like start me over from square one. So it was like another 3 weeks past when I got it filled to where I was actually back up at like the dose that I had been taking. So I just accidentally like completely like the brain fog that I had while I was like in that in-between state, coming off of it and then coming back up, like, oh my God, it was so hard to think lamotrigine.
Never had that one. I had to take fucking sertraline.
Sertraline, yeah, sertraline, that's, I'm trying to remember, that's the generic of something, I think. Zoloft, okay, yeah, that's kind of an older antidepressant.
Huh?
I said that, I think that's kind of like one of the older antidepressants. Those older like SSRIs tend to have like some of the gnarliest side effects.
Yeah, well, one thing they don't tell you about it is that it can trigger a manic episode, and I never even knew I had the capability to have one, so now I can deal with that.
Yeah, which FYI, in case your psychiatrist didn't do their job, any traditional SSRI can do that.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't seeing a psychiatrist, I was seeing a physician's assistant, and they probably not as responsible. They just gave me the...
It's hit or miss, man. There are a lot of psychiatrists in town. Like my dad was a psychiatric nurse, so I have like a psych nurse on one side, a very, very curious brain in my own head. So I'm constantly asking questions, learning about this kind of stuff, because it does fascinate me. And my mom was an occupational therapist on the other side, so mental health kind of professionals on both sides of my family. I just kind of grew up around that kind of stuff. And you'd be surprised how much like bad medicine there is in psychiatry, like how much just wildly irresponsible prescribing there is.
Yeah, it's so easy to get a prescription for anything.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy how easy it is.
Except it feels like, except when it's something really simple that is not a controlled substance that you really need right now. Then all of a sudden it's really hard and everybody has a bunch of questions and like, that's been my experience.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really easy to get stuff that it should be way harder to get, and it's really hard to get like stuff that there's no need to make a big a fuss about.
Yeah.
Like I recently, I've run into this issue that I've never had before. I have horrible insomnia. I have really bad sleep anxiety.
Me too.
And so I've been taking trazodone for probably like at least 5 years now, 5, 6 years. And it's always, helped. It's always helped me fall asleep. It's not the best quality sleep, but like it's sleep, But recently, I guess the pharmacy started filling my prescriptions with a different manufacturer. Like it was a different brand.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like the non-drowsy version or what, but it does nothing. It does not help me sleep at all. So I've been getting horrible sleep the last couple months, and for the last 2 weeks, I've been trying to get basically like somebody to write me like a new prescription, because I have like multiple 90-day supplies of stuff that like doesn't do what I need it to do. So they're like, well, you're not out yet. I'm like, no, I'm not out. But like the problem is like the stuff that I have isn't doing anything. I need another prescription so that I can request at the pharmacy a different brand. And it's been crazy. It was easier. It was easier for me to get Ativan for my sleep anxiety than it is for them to just prescribe me, like re-prescribe me something that I've been taking for 6 years and isn't a controlled substance. I'm just like, please, I need to sleep.
Yes. No, I fucking could not sleep last night because now my thoughts just start racing for no reason instead of for anxiety reasons. Now they just race and race
Yeah.
because I'm still technically going through the manic episode. So I just got medicine today, so hopefully it'll be ending soon.
Yeah.
So, but could not sleep for the life of me. And I was like, well, the weird thing is about like bipolar is like because it just sort of like it lowers that sort of they say inhibition, but it's more like there's just like a wall. Like every normal human has like a normal wall between them and the rest of the world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That sort of like helps you filter out certain things.
You mean in terms of like the intensity of like the stimulus around you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like we evolved this way so that we could like, see what's actually a threat and what is just part of our environment.
Yeah.
But when you have bipolar disorder, your dopamine receptors are just like going nuts. So everything seems like it's important or dangerous.
Yeah.
Or whatever else, like, and you start to see like random things as like having more meaning than they actually do.
Yeah.
And then because everything's sort of on a level playing field, like everything sort of starts to also sort of seem like connected in a weird way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last night I was just like trying to sleep so bad. It was like I don't know, probably 4 in the morning, and I was like just sitting there having my thoughts race, and like I felt sort of like my brain get held down and something like try to force its way in for like just like 5 seconds, like.
Was this like a sensation or a perception of like an entity, like something other than you, or was it?
It was like some sort of weird force was trying to get inside my head or something weird like that. Yeah, I don't know how many like people come here with bipolar disorder.
It sounds like it'd be pretty hard to sleep with that going on.
Yeah, it was just like for half a second, and obviously like I knew it was just my brain doing it, but it's really unsettling and I hate it.
Yeah, so there is actually there is one guest who, rather than kind of go and receive inpatient services or go and isolate themselves and ride it out by themselves and just hope that the meds work. This individual doesn't take meds for their bipolar, and when they're experiencing like a manic episode, they come in and they check in for as many days as they can, and they kind of just ride it out here. And it's tough because it's like I know that a lot of people, when they see somebody like in the middle of a manic kind of swing, it's hard for most people to kind of relate, or like hard for a lot of people to kind of like coexist around it, like to not get stressed out themselves. And it's just really cool the way that like both the staff and the people here like kind of just come together for this individual when he's going through that.
Yeah.
And it's just that's one of the cooler, I guess, kind of like I don't know, stories or anecdotes that comes to mind about how powerful like just simply a supportive community can be, to where, you know, this individual who struggles with an experience that for a lot of people would put them in the hospital, and he's able to do it just purely by surrounding himself with people who are there for him.
Yeah, that's really cool. I wouldn't say it's gotten to the point where I need to be hospitalized yet, thankfully. It really does make you feel like you're going nuts.
Yeah.
Which sucks because I like being in control of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, just lots of really bad days recently.
Yeah, that's kind of like a perfect storm if you have,
Bipolar and anxiety.
well, like anxiety about being out of control.
Yeah, like my greatest fear is getting dementia.
You know, it's funny, like when my anxiety gets bad enough, I wonder, I'm just like, am I getting fucking Alzheimer's? Like, I feel like I have dementia. Like my executive functioning, that's part of why, you know, my, I'm gonna move this thing off here for you. Part of why I accidentally went off my meds was my executive functioning, like my attention, my short-term memory, and all that was just so compromised because of how bad my anxiety had gotten. It's like I walk into a room, forget what I came for, remember what it was, pick up the thing that I came for, forget again, look down, see the thing in my hand, and be like, oh yeah, that's right. Or like I'll literally come into a room with a particular thing in mind that I need to do, see something else, do that, leave, realize I didn't do the thing, come back in, and like repeat that like 2 or 3 times until I actually like accomplish the thing that I originally wanted to do.
I do that many times. Cool.
That was a big thing that I realized about, one of the biggest kind of realizations, or like, I don't know, epiphanies that I've had about my own experiences is that for me, like my whole life, and this was largely because all of the kind of clinicians, the psychiatrists and stuff like that, who I was seeing, this was kind of their approach as well, where they thought that they were treating the depression. That was like the big thing. Oh, this person is depressed. That's the problem. That's what we need to focus on. That's what we need to address, is the depression. And what I realized is the depression was really there, I mean, for a reason. It's purposeful. The depression is there to kind of insulate me from the anxiety. Like when you're, and the more I thought about it, the more it really made a lot of sense in like psychology. Back not that long ago, somebody had the great idea, I guess, to design an experiment where they put, I think it was dogs actually, in cages with electrified floors. And basically what they found after putting these dogs in an environment where there was a painful or an uncomfortable stimulus that they couldn't escape from, was after a certain amount of time, the dogs just, you know, there was a burst of aggression initially. They tried to get out of the cage. They tried to tear the cage apart. They tried to dig their way out, all this kind of stuff. But eventually they just gave up. They just kind of stopped trying. They stopped really even caring about the electric shocks that they were getting. And that's a really good metaphor for the relationship between depression and anxiety in people, in humans. If you want to think about your brain and your anxiety as the metal cage with an electric floor that's zapping you and you can't get away from it, you can't get away from this anxiety, this like electrified feeling inside of you, it's like you have 2 options. Like, well, I can continue to give a shit about being zapped all the time, or I can just kind of turn all the lights off and check out until it gets better. And
I love when my camera breaks.
oh no.
My tripod is just like, no, you cannot do anything today. Why would you do this to me? I thought we were friends.
I thought we had something special.
Lovers. actually get deep into this, but anyway.
But yeah, for me, that made a huge difference, realizing that like for most of my life, I saw depression as this like, I don't even know how exactly, like almost like this little evil spirit that was floating above my head all the time, like sucking all the happiness and the joy out of my life. Like it was almost like this, it almost had like a face or like a personality. It was like this thing that was haunting me and stealing all my happiness. And then I realized like, no, like it was protecting me from my anxiety and from trauma. You know, it's like, and I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. Like it took seeing a really, really, really good psychiatrist who really phrased it in a way that really resonated with me. He said that anxiety is the engine that drives depression. And it was really what he kind of totally switched gears and was like, well, you know, I think nobody's ever put you on anything specifically for anxiety. Or it sounds like the biggest problem is that your anxiety isn't getting properly addressed. And he switched some stuff around. He put me on Buspar, which is actually it was my dad's recommendation. It's like an old, I think it might technically be like an anti-seizure, but really, really effective for anxiety. And when my anxiety is under control, I can't say it's currently optimally under control right now because it's a stressful time to be anybody, anywhere.
Yeah.
But when it is like optimally under control, the depression like it just kind of melts away on its own. You know, it just kind of senses that there's nothing left for it to protect me from, and it's just like, all right, I'm gonna turn the lights back on. Enjoy. There's nothing in this room that is so uncomfortable to look at that you need the lights off. So.
Yep. I remember my freshman year of high school. Not high school, sorry, college. My freshman year of college, I had a really hard time making friends. And I would get really anxious about trying to make new friends all the time. Like trying to relate to people and talk to people more.
Yeah.
And it just felt like nothing I did ever worked. I was just really lonely, and eventually, you know, I sort of grew numb to it, like you're talking about, you know? So
Yeah, like eventually your choices are I can keep caring about this thing and keep losing my peace to it and keep letting the electric shock in, or I can just kind of hibernate.
yeah.
That's kind of what depression is you're just kind of hibernating.
Yeah, I've been anxious kind of my whole life. Although that's getting better.
Yeah. It made me,
Somehow.
yeah.
That's the thing that's getting better.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm also seeing like a chiropractor.
Now, I've recently started seeing a really quality chiropractor as well, who's a lot more than just like he's like a whole functional medicine doctor. Like he looks at like Jared Wanenwich.
Oh, okay. I was just checking to see if we maybe see the same guy. But I see Mark Chance.
Chance, okay.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's got a whole holistic kind of approach. He looks at like diet. He does a lot of soft tissue work, which is really cool. Not just adjustments and stuff, which has made a huge impact for me.
They always offer like massages and stuff like that. So I film this one as well.
Yeah, go for it.
Thanks.
Do you want this light on still?
No, actually, sorry about that. Actually.
No, it's okay. I just was thinking more about for your lighting. I don't know cameras. I just know light's a thing that they need.
Yes, it is. That is very. Why is my camera still tilting? I actually don't understand why. Because I have adjusted it and readjusted it so many times. How? Where does this go? Where does this even go?
Oh no. Just hardware.
Some random thing just fell off. Like, I don't even know why.
Oh no.
Whatever. Okay. himself in his room the whole time, or?
Sometimes, yeah, but sometimes he'll also kind of just come down and spend time in the kitchen, either talk to some of our staff or
Please stand close for
um,
taking temperature.
talk to other people. He kind of bounces around a lot,
Please stand close for taking temperature.
and he really what he does is he kind of like looks for ways to kind of like burn off that extra energy, I guess.
Yeah.
And for him, a lot of it is like being social. He's kind of like me. He's a little, like an extrovert, and like kind of talking it out, I think, is a big part of what helps him kind of regulate those like waves that he kind of has to ride.
Please stand close for taking temperature.
Some folks come in and they like. There's a whole really wide range of ways that people use our services. Some people come in and they come to groups every day. You know what I mean? They've got their particular groups that they really resonate with. Like maybe it's a trauma-informed group and a peer support group that they are there like every Tuesday, like clockwork. That's like part of their self-care routine, is making sure that they get their peer support at a certain time on a certain day. Some people come in for one-on-ones. Some people come in and reserve the rooms just purely to be like here in the space. Like they don't really, some people don't really interact with staff or other guests a whole lot. We try to encourage them to, but you know, ultimately it's part of how we operate to not define what wellness looks like to other people, not tell them how they have to go about it. So
Let's get a shot of this room, just move everything back.
sure. Almost top-heavy vase.
Yeah. All right.
And there's some folks that just kind of come because they come for like the social interaction. They just come to be around other people who get it and aren't going to judge them.
Sometimes you just need social interaction in general, I think.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a tendency to self-isolate, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, there's almost the sense of just like that, and I remember, I feel this way as well sometimes, of just being like, I am not fit to present myself to other people. Like I'll catch myself, you know, having thoughts like that, or thinking like, I'm too depressed or too anxious right now to have anything to offer to someone else. Like I'm not worth being around. I'm not healthy enough to have social interaction. And I have to really challenge like those kind of thoughts when I catch myself thinking that, because I'm just like, nah, like that's.
I struggle with that every day.
Yeah, yeah. There's this almost kind of like thing that we get conditioned to believe that like you have to be.
You have to be worth something.
Yeah, in order to for there to like deserve social interaction.
It's weird. Doesn't make any sense, I know. But nothing ever does.
Yeah. I think a lot of the talk that I gave at that symposium on like how our concept of wellness has been affected by like the medical model and the disease model. I think, I mean, my kind of working theory is that a lot of the stigma that exists around mental health is because of the way that we kind of medicalize everything. You know, like the disease model sees people as you're either sick and you're unwell, or you're not sick and you're well, and that divides, you know, people into two groups: those that are mentally healthy and those that are mentally ill. And when you have like this division like that, when you split people into groups that in like a way that's so oversimplified, you get these in-grouping and out-grouping effects, where you get these group of people that you identify. You get the mentally normal, quote-unquote, people who are in the cool kids, more or less, is really kind of what the effect is. And then you get the outsiders, everybody else.
Yeah.
Those people.
What is normal? Nothing's really normal. We all just like to tell ourselves looks like us, talks like us, acts like us out there that we can be one day.
Yeah,
You
there's.
just gotta accept yourself, and that's the biggest issue with medicalizing everything, is that it never teaches you to accept your illness.
Yeah.
It always says, oh, there's a solution out there. And one day you'll be free of it. And you just never end up dealing with it the right way.
There was, I love that question of like, what is normal? There's, there's a post on Twitter that to me like really beautifully encapsulates why the idea of using language like normal and abnormal when it comes to like the experiences that people have is just problematic and weird. There's this post that this person said, the universe is an ongoing explosion. That's where you live, inside an explosion. We absolutely don't know what living is. Sometimes atoms just get very haunted. That's us. When an explosion explodes hard enough, dust wakes up and thinks about itself, and then tweets about it. And it's like, when you really think about it, having a brain is, it's kind of abnormal. It's kind of weird. It's this lump of meat with electricity inside of it that somehow gives us thoughts and feelings and beliefs. I just realized how scared these guys are. Is that better? Clearly not a world-renowned interior decorator.
I think actually, just give that a shot. There's just not really a way to make it look that good.
Too many obstacles.
Yeah. Should I get before going outside?
I think.
Get this over here.
Yeah. I should probably give a little bit of I guess some audio for like the way we do the rooms. So the rooms are available for really anybody. Like I said, we don't diagnose and we don't prescribe, so there's no, nobody will get turned away if they're quote unquote like not unwell enough. There's no criteria for who's eligible for the room other than everybody has to be legal adult, capable of kind of living independently, picking up after themselves, feeding themselves, bathing themselves. And they have to have stable housing outside of the respite, which is kind of a point that a lot of people get confused about. So that basically anybody, in order to be eligible for an overnight stay, you have to have some place that you can go after your time here is up. We guarantee people 8 nights a month for the overnight stays, and after that, it's kind of on a needs basis. So like you can stay 10 nights in a month, but after that 8th night, any additional night that you stay kind of comes with the caveat of like, you know, if somebody who hasn't used their 8 nights comes in, we might have to ask you to leave on short notice.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got the 5 rooms, the 2 downstairs, wheelchair accessible rooms, and the 3 upstairs rooms that are available for anybody to overnight in.
What's that over there? Oh, it's the...
This is we call it the peer room. Yeah, it's where we do one-on-ones, kind of like private, like it's where we do a lot of our check-ins.
That doesn't look...
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I can't shoot this one.
Yeah, it's not worth nothing to write home about in here.
I just think the innate human fear we all have is that we're going to be alone. You know?
Yeah.
We're just all kind of scared. There's never going to be somebody there for us, and that's why I like this so much, and why I really wanted to do this.
Yeah. We did kind of back when quarantine first happened, back when COVID first went live. We had this little kind of event where we invited people to talk about what loneliness feels like to them, looks like, sounds like, feels like, to kind of encourage people to have a dialogue about, you know, the way loneliness affects them and how they experience it. And both myself and one of my friends describe it in a very similar way. It's like feeling lonely or feeling alone is like being